After Charles Leclerc's victory last time out at the Monaco Grand Prix, Ferrari aren't playing around and they have in place an upgrade plan that they hope will be able to leapfrog the Red Bull team and take the lead in both the Drivers' and Constructors' World Championships. This plan is in place up until the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, where they will be introducing their next major upgrade package to the SF24, and the target with it is to increase the qualifying efficiency of the car for both Leclerc and Sainz. This goal, of course, would be further boosted by the fact that Red Bull have correlation issues and, of course, the huge financial implications of the Perez crash at the hands of Magnussen last time out, which cost the team between £2 to £3 million. This, of course, also has a bearing on their ability to bring upgrades to the RB20, with one insider stating that the final upgrade that they have in place for the end of the season might now have to be scrapped. But before heading any further into the video, I'm running a competition with you all having a chance to win this Ferrari Shadoni leather good bag from the early 90s. Now, all you have to do to be in a chance of winning is subscribing to the channel, liking this video, commenting and sharing, and you'll be entered into the draw, with the winner being announced on the channel for the first practice session of the Canadian Grand Prix. So good luck. Now, of course, off the back of last year, with which Ferrari would have identified all the weaknesses of last year's car, the SF23, they made loads of changes coming into this year with the aim of achieving the targets they set. Now, one of those, of course, would have been the weakness of their race pace last year. Now, while the SF23 might have been extremely good in qualifying, as we saw on many an occasion, being on average very close to Red Bull and the RB19, when it came to race pace, they were a mile off them and would always fall back into the clutches of, like, say, McLaren and Aston Martin and Mercedes. Now, this is the area of which they identified they needed to improve on with the SF24 dramatically. And they've done so, with them on average being a lot closer to the Red Bull this season. Now, this has, of course, had a impact on the qualifying form, and in a negative manner. And on average now this season, they're between 2 and 4 tenths of a second slower than that of the RB20. Of course, the one outlier and the anomaly of that was last time out at Monaco, but this was for a number of different reasons outside of that. And what Ferrari have an issue with is getting the tyres into the optimum window for that first hot lap in qualifying. Now, of course, this means that the car is a lot gentler on their tyres throughout a race stint, which is, of course, something you need, as you need to be able to manage the temperatures and get it into the right optimum window. And this has enabled them to close the gap dramatically in races, but it's left them on the back foot when it comes to qualifying. And of course, with the lap times being so close between Red Bull, McLaren and Ferrari now, albeit like a tenth of a second, the fact that they're starting behind these teams at the beginning of a race is now becoming an issue. And this is why they've identified the area of being able to improve their qualifying performance. Now, what are they actually going to be targeting in terms of the parts or components on their SF24? This is something I cannot tell any of you because we don't actually know. Now, of course, Ferrari will be running simulations in the wind tunnel and through CFD, and they will be obviously, of course, running these with the potential ideas behind which they will then bring upgrades to achieve their goals. And until a news publication brings light to what these are, we cannot say what areas of the car they could be. They could be front wing, they could be brake ducts, they could be the Venturi tunnels, they could be the floor, it could be the side pods. The list goes on and on. So it's a case of just waiting and finding out. Now, of course, with Silverstone being quite a way away, there's still a load of other races left to go. And with this current SF24 Evo package that they've introduced in Imola, the team believe by the time of the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona, they will have fully got to grips with how to best optimize it to get the car in the right working window and setup range for this particular version of the car. And of course, this means a lot because we have quite a few interesting upcoming races. For example, next time out in Canada, I fully expect the SF24 in the hands of Leclerc to be extremely strong around the circuit. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is, of course, there's a load of slow corners and there's a lot of curb riding. Two things last time out in Monaco, the SF24 excelled at. And, of course, on the other side of the fence, Red Bull struggled with. Now, this I can't, of course, say is something that will kind of play over and go into Canada with Red Bull and they struggle there, but I have the feeling Ferrari are going to be extremely strong around that track, and I think they have the possibility to go to have back-to-back wins for the first time this season and in quite a few seasons at that as well. I just have this feeling that the temperatures are going to just play into the hands of the team, and just the overall layout is going to suit the SF24 more than that of the RB20. I feel the RB20 loves high-speed corners and high-speed circuits in nature, and I feel the slower the corners are on a racetrack, the more that car is going to struggle. So it's going to be really interesting to see the dynamics at play there in Canada and who gets the upper hand on who. Because I think one thing is for certain, all three teams of Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren will be within maybe a tenth of two of each other in both qualifying and the race. And this could very much play a role in the differing strategies between the top three teams and their 6 drivers. I think, as we always see around the Canada circuit, you can have a different change in strategy. You can go for a 2-stop, a 1-stop, or potentially a 3-stop. And of course, we also have the additional outside kind of interference of whether the rain is there or whether, red flags. And I think it's just going to be a really interesting weekend. And I think, as we saw in Imola with Red Bull, when they didn't try the hard tyre in the practice sessions, it left them extremely vulnerable to the likes of Norris throughout that final stint in the race. And with the circuit being that much different from Imola, and we know overtaking around the Canada circuit is a lot easier, we could see multiple passes for the lead throughout the race, and of course in the pit stop phases with the undercut as well. So it should make for a very, very fascinating, and hopefully for our sake, after Monaco, an exciting Grand Prix. But that is the video, guys. Hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have, leave a like, subscribe down below and comment in this video. And I'll catch you all in another video very shortly this week.